Okay, Roz, I think that that's probably good, and anyone else who wants to join will feel free to do so.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you, Ted. So, first off, thank you everyone for joining us today. We are so excited to have you all here, especially for our first intern forum through MS Teams. So, just to give you a little background about how this came about and the purpose and why we decided to have these intern forums. It actually came about while during the pandemic. So prior to COVID, interns weren't allowed to telework, so they were required to come in. And so, during that time, we realized, and talking with our interns and talking with managers, that there seemed to be this disconnect, right? And then just interns weren't able to get together with each other and get to hear from each other. And we want to build that network, build that camaraderie, give you all an opportunity to be able to to connect with each other. So because you're all this is your first time within NAVFAC, learning about the organization, but being able to learn together and go through, if you have questions or issues or things that you just want to talk about, then this is an opportunity to do that, to meet with each other. So that's the behind the scenes, of why this first kind of started and how it all came about. So I am happy to introduce Mr. Ted Wackerly and Sakari Ishatar from Advancia Technology. So they will be running this show for you today for the Intern Forum. Ted is from Hawaii, and he is a member of the Learning and Development team and is responsible for organizing and creating events just like this one. So during his spare time, he is an avid gardener. Sakari is from Washington, D.C., and he is a member of the Employee Competency Assessment, the ECA team. And in his spare time, he likes to do martial arts. So, and then just to give you some background about me, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Rosalind Cloud. I am the director of the Community Management Training Group for the intern programs for both the Professional Development Center and the NADP, the Naval Acquisition Development Program. So for our NAVFAC folks. So my team manages the intern programs and works closely with you and your managers. So I know you've heard of have Heather Ulang, who unfortunately has left. So many of you know her name. Brianna has Brianna Allen, who's been helping a lot, and also, of course, and Pat Groff. So they should be on as well today. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to both Ted and Sakari, and please give them your full attention. And please be sure to set your microphone to mute. But we do want this to be a very interactive session. And it is being recorded. So, and there will be a 10-minute break during the midpoint. So, Ted, I'm turning the group over to you. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Roz, for that introduction. Well, welcome to today's forum. I'm very excited to be here. I'm even more excited for you because of the time and energy NAVFAC has spent on creating this opportunity. I'm joined today by Sakari. He's running the slides. Sakari, say hello.
Hello, everyone. Welcome from DC.
Thank you, Sakari. Today's topic is developing yourself, and we will lay the foundation for your professional growth. This is the first of 4 sessions that will build off each other. You won't want to miss the next session, which will cover accountability and will be held on May 5th, starting at the same time, 1 o'clock Eastern. Session 3 will take place on May 19th and discuss problem solving, and session 4 will cover communication for results and be held on June 2nd. Each session starts at 1 p.m. I would just like to remind everyone to make sure your microphone is on mute to cut down any background noise. Please mark your calendars now to block the time and watch for announcements as they will come. These topics have been carefully chosen and will become the pillars of your success here at NAFAC if you take advantage of this opportunity. Each session builds on the previous session and is necessary for what comes next. So please make plans to attend and encourage others to also join. Recordings of each session will be made available. Today's call will last 2 hours. The first hour will consist of our formal presentation. We'll take a short break. The second hour will be more of an interactive forum keyed on your participation. And so please hang with me, relax, kick back, grab a water, and let's move on. We're going to spend some time just reviewing Microsoft Teams. Many of you have already been using Teams for the 1 millionth time, but for any of us who are new, I just want to cover a few housekeeping items. Please note there are several factors that will determine your display, such as if you're using an MCI machine, a personal computer, a Mac, on your phone. You may see things a little differently that appear on my slide. The icons are labeled on the slide from left to right, and we're going to discuss the primary features that we'll use in the live session. On the top left of your screen, you see the picture of a camera. We encourage you to have your video on if possible. We understand if you can't. Next, you'll see the microphone icon, meaning your microphone is on or off. Please keep your mic on mute throughout the learning session to avoid background noise from interfering. The next image below shows the options you have available under More Actions. If you like a live caption displayed throughout this session, you can click here to enable captions. Please note, unlike other collaboration tools, there are no private conversations in MS Teams. Everything that you post is available for everyone else to see, so just keep that in mind. The last course for session 4, which I believe is a question in the chat, thank you for asking that, is June 2nd. So now that we understand MS Teams and the functionality, let's move on to slide 3, and let's look at some icons specifically for our time together today. There are 2 icons I want to share with you before we get started. You will see these on the top left of some of the slides throughout this webinar. The icon that you see on the left is a little piece of paper, and the other one is a chat box. The paper pencil icon indicates a workbook activity. So when you see this icon in the left corner, this means I'll be asking you to write something in your workbook or refer to your workbook. You should have downloaded this from the CCRC, but if you haven't, I'm going to ask Sakari to post that link to the workbook one more time in the chat box. And there it is. So you click on that and you'll come up to the Developing Others page in CCRC. Page down to the bottom where you see some choices. You have options there. Look for webinars. And when you click on webinars, you'll see the workbook for today's Intern forum session number 1. Great. So the chat icon, it indicates a chat activity. This is intended to be an interactive session, so there will be times where I ask you to participate in the chat function. So we kind of already started doing this, but let's do it again for everyone who's just joined. Please enter where you're from today and what command you're with. So go ahead and just get used to that chat function and go ahead and enter that in the chat box now. All right, we've got some messages coming in all over the place. This is awesome. Several from Washington, D.C. Got some fellow Hawaiians with me. That's great. We had somebody from Guam, Nikki. Anyone else? Well, that's great. So we've got a great representation here across the mainland and even beyond. Okay, so let's go ahead and move again to slide 4. It is important that you understand that your career is yours to create. And the way to create the career you want is by taking control of your personal and professional development. NAVFAC is making a significant investment into employees' professional development through the Career Compass program. The Career Compass provides you with access to assessment tools, development tools, materials, and guidance to support you to better navigate your path to opportunity within NAVFAC. Today, we will walk through the Career Compass and how to get the most out of it. First, let's look at what drives the program. Next slide. Our agenda for today is to review the community management framework, tools to support your growth, resources to support your growth. This is the NAVFAC Workforce Development System, often referred to as the engine. This diagram lays out the 5 subsystems of the NAVFAC Workforce Development System. We will take a closer look at each subsystem as we move forward. Subsystem 1 is the strategic direction as laid out in the Community Management Framework, or CMF. This lays out the 20 non-technical competencies identified by NAVFAC as being critical for mission success. In the top left corner of the graphic, moving down to Subsystem 2. Subsystem 2 contains career path planning and data collection, which inputs from the Employee Competency Assessment, ECA, and the Individual Development Plan, IDP. It is here that employees begin to engage with the system by completing the ECA and IDPs, which inform and map out their personal development path, but also feeds the data into Subsystem 3 directly to the right. Subsystem 3 is the programmatic requirement located in the middle of the graphic. Taking the data collected from Subsystem 2, data mining and gap analysis are conducted to do a develop data-informed strategy for development opportunities. This will inform Subsystem 4 in the lower right corner of the graphic. Subsystem 4 is learning and development. It is responsible for both SysCom procurement and development of training based on requirements identified in Subsystem 3. Moving directly up to the upper right-hand corner of the engine is Subsystem 5. Subsystem 5, Workforce Development Performance. This is where data is leveraged to help ensure system success and inform the system of adjustments necessary to optimize the overall system. Next slide. Let's take a closer look at the Community Management Framework, CMF, which resides in Subsystem 1, establishing strategic direction in 4 sections. Section 1's overarching guidance provides employees with information and resources to understand where they are in their career and where they would like to go and how to get there. Subsystem 2's foundational, supervisory, and management development outlines the non-technical professional development expectations for all employees, as well as NAVFAC's leadership program opportunities and mandatory training requirements. Section 3's occupational series and career field competencies provides guidance for professional development, including recommended and required training and achievement standards for specific career fields that cross NAVFAC communities. Section 4's community-specific technical plans contains requirements as outlined by specific NAVFAC communities, including information on technical competencies, skills, trainings, and certifications required for all job series. Next slide. So we come to our first chat question. From your perspective as a relatively new employee, what do you see as being critical to developing in order to grow your career? Please enter your comment in the chat box. What do you see as being critical to developing for you to grow? Asking questions, thank you. Effective communication, love it. Mentorship. Oh, you guys are reading my mind. What else? Understanding the software programs and how to implement this into daily practice. Good idea. Understanding the systems, gaining skills and experience, understanding policies and procedures, being willing to try and do anything. Thank you. Vocational competencies, hard skills, and expanding your network. Great. I love this, expanding your network. We're going to talk about that later. Taking lots of notes. Coaching from peers, peer coaching. Great idea. Anyone else? This is great. One more. Thank you. Consistent hands-on. All right. Well, hey, thanks for your participation. This really adds a lot to our session. Let's move on to the next slide. At NAVFAC, the 70-20-10 model is used in designing development opportunities. This model was developed in the 1980s. Maybe some of us were alive, most of us probably weren't, by researchers at the Center for Creative Leadership, who were studying what were the development experiences that made highly successful executive and senior leaders successful. What they found was that these people learned 70% of their most critical skills developed through experience, stretch assignments, trying new things, facing challenges, getting feedback, and moving forward. 20% came from the social learning experiences like working with a mentor, a coach, and learning from peers. These are all things you guys mentioned. Finally, they found that about 10% of their critical skills development came from formal learning, like taking a class or other formal training programs. Next slide. Using the chat tool again, answer the following question. What are key lessons or skills that you have learned outside of the classroom? Key lessons or skills that you've learned outside of the classroom. What comes to mind? Communication, people, use of systems. Very good. Systems and software. Systems is a big one. Working with others, note-taking, practical application of DAU training. Can anyone tell me what DAU stands for?
The Defense Acquisition University.
Thank you. Wow, that sounds like a fun place to go. Difference between listening and hearing. Active listening and preparations. This is all good. Very good. Let's just wait to see if one more is coming in. Okay, great. Let's move on to the next slide. Thank you for all those. The three foundational tools for workforce development at NAVFAC are the Workforce Development Continuum, Employee Competency Assessment, or ECA, and the Individual Development Plan, or IDP. Let's take a closer look at each of these. The Workforce Development Continuum lays out the 20 non-technical competencies that have been identified by NAVFAC leaders as critical for mission success. Let's go to the next slide. They are laid out by career level and segment and show levels of desired proficiency. 20 non-technical competencies identified by NAVFAC, laid out by career and segment, and shows levels of desired proficiency. Next slide, please. The Workforce Development Continuum is the cornerstone of NAVFAC Workforce Development System that lays out and identifies the 20 non-technical competencies. The career segmentation group employees to align to employee pay plan and career level. Competencies, often referred to as KSA, or knowledge, skills, and abilities needed to be successful in a specific role. Next slide. When we are talking about workforce development, we are talking about the development of skills or competencies. It's important to understand that there are two main categories of competencies: technical and non-technical. Technical competencies are tangible skills like the ability to write contracts, design or build something, the ability to maintain infrastructure to meet the mission. Non-technical competencies are the skills that enable your success. They include things like communication, resilience, or influencing others. The reality is that we need both technical and non-technical competencies to be able to be successful. Next slide. Here is the Workforce Development Continuum one more time. You can see on the column on the left-hand side are the competency groupings: foundational, supervisory, management, senior executive. And along the top are the career segments, roughly aligning role and career level. Entry level, lead team, lead organization, lead the institution. Next slide. And the Employee Competency Assessment, or ECA, is an online self-assessment. Let's move to the next slide. On the 20 non-technical competencies where employees assess their level of proficiency of each competency, this generates a report that we can see on the next slide. The ECA open cycle runs from March 1st through April 22nd. Only data collected during this period is used to inform fiscal year 23 training opportunities. So be sure to complete this at the conclusion of today's call if you have not done so already. Here's the sample of the ECA report. On the left, you see the 20 non-technical competencies listed and separated by the competency groups: foundational, supervisory, and management. These are the same 20 non-technical competencies that we saw on the continuum. Next to each competency, you will see the blue bar, which represents the user's self-assessed level of proficiency with each competency on a 5-point scale, with 1 representing awareness and 5 representing the expert proficiency level. The gray bar that is behind and extending past the self-assessment score bar shows the desired proficiency level. The difference between the self-assessed score and the desired level would be the competency gap. At the bottom of the report, in the blue, are the user's top strengths. Below the strengths in red are the top areas for growth. With gaps identified and your top strengths as well as top growth areas, the ECA is designed to support the creation of the individual development plan. On this sample report, you will also see lines in red where a supervisor also completed an assessment of the employee. This is not required. It can provide additional feedback. It is recommended that you engage with your supervisor to discuss your ECA as you prepare to create your IDP. Next slide. Please answer yes or no to the following poll question in the chat tool. I have already taken the ECA. Yes. Oh, we got some yeses. I was worried. Oh, look at all these yeses. Can someone tell me no? Be honest. If it's no, that's okay. You still have time. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you, Suzanne. You still have time. Wow, we've got several yeses in here, Sakari. This is very encouraging. Thank you, Alicia, for no. Claire, there's still time. There's still time. And I'm going to come back to you later and see if I've tipped the scales on whether you want to do this or not. Thank you, Jamie. Okay, great. Well, hey, thank you, Caroline, and thank you, Vanessa. Appreciate. Okay, so if you have taken the ECA, here's the next question. Have you talked with your supervisor about it? This will be the key. That would require receiving feedback. We got some yeses, we got some nos. Oh, great. Kyle said yes, and he set up a plan. Way to go, Kyle. Awesome. Awesome. Now, Kyle, let me ask this. Were you leery of doing that setup and meeting with your supervisor beforehand? Did you have some reservations in doing so? Just please be honest. Okay, thank you. He said, no, I felt it was the best way to gain knowledge and direction. Way to go, Kyle. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I thought you might say it would be, but then realized actually it wasn't so bad. You know, receiving that feedback, it needs to be taken with a grain of salt for sure. But, you know, as the saying goes, if it does not kill you, it can only make you stronger. All right, let's go on to the next slide, the individual development plan, and go ahead to the next slide again, Sakari, thank you. The individual development plan, or IDP, takes longer to complete than the ECA, but it is your opportunity to take time and intentionally focus on how you want to develop your competencies so you can create the career you want to have. Do not rush this process. Take some time to do the ECA. Explore the CCRC and Career Compass catalog and engage with your supervisor about starting your career and where to focus. The IDP tool is an online form that will guide you through developing a roadmap, focusing on your development activities, closing specific gaps identified in their ECA. The IDP is also a great tool to use to engage with your supervisor in a development conversation and to get their perspective on your focus and growth. The ECA and IDP are tools that are designed on helping you take time to focus on what you want to do with your career at this time. Without a doubt, your career focus will change as you grow and learn more, so you will also change. But when you take the time to plan, you are in greater control of having the career you want. Let's move on to the next slide. We come to another chat question. Have you been utilizing your IDP? We've got some yeses. Wow, that's great. Kimberly, thank you. Jean Paul, Eric, Ashley. Look at this, Sakari. Look at all these yeses. That's fabulous. Now, for someone who has said yes, did your supervisor or did the IDP give you constructive direction on what to work on next? Anyone care to share? Well, that's great. If the answer was yes, can you give an example? As far as career competencies are concerned. But specifically, which one, Eric? Or anyone for that matter. DAU courses. And Roz, DAU stands for what again?
Defense Acquisition University.
Defense Acquisition University.
Yes. So there's a list of courses throughout their development that they'll need to take. So for technical development.
Oh, okay. All right. So what would be an example of one, just for my benefit?
Oh gosh. Could be like acquisition. Before it was acquisition like 101 was something like that. So folks who are in acquisition workforce positions, so they are required to earn their certification within their functional area, which used to be called career field. So that's going through the whole change up. Yes, Con 170, as Eric pointed out, is another class.
Okay. Simplified acquisition procedure. All right, very good. Well, hey, thank you for that. Okay, let's go to the next slide. We have another chat question. So based on what you've heard in this session so far, what non-technical competencies are you interested in adding to your IDP? And you can look in your workbook on pages 7 or 9 for that list again. So the non-technical competencies. Problem solving, great. Thank you, Jenna. What else? Project and program management. Very good. Negotiating. Very good. Continual learning, mentorship. Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you, Christina. Communicating for results. Thank you, Suzanne. By the way, that's session 4. Problem solving is session 3. No one's mentioned accountability yet, which is session 2. Anyone else? Okay, great. Let's move on to the next slide. So the Career Compass has a wide variety of resources to support NAVFAC employees' development. Coming in fiscal year 23, we will have formal SysComm mentoring and a centralized rotation program. These types of development programs relate back to the 70-20-10 model and represent the 70 and 20% parts of that model. They are also based on adult learning theories that show that adults really do learn best by doing. Next slide. The Career Compass Resource Center, and let's go ahead to the next slide, is an online source of information that provides all employees access to personal and professional development opportunities. This is a key part of Career Compass program and a central place to find materials and development opportunities. Next slide. Be sure to bookmark the CCRC. This link and other helpful links are provided later in the presentation and they're in your workbook. Next slide. Other career development resources include the Career Compass Catalog, which has links to hundreds of courses and learning resources like podcasts and different types of videos. There are printable infographics, workbooks that assist for webinars, and there are job aids. You will also find special programs like the Supervisory Academy and leadership programs, as well as executive coaching for more senior leaders. Coming in fiscal year 23, as mentioned before, there will be the centralized rotations and a formal mentoring program. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Here's another poll question. What type of development resources do you prefer? A, podcasts, B, YouTube videos, C, live webinars, or D, other? And if it is D, please specify, Jean. Podcasts, YouTube videos, live webinars, podcasts, B and C. Okay. Example materials, how-to guides. Okay, so that was your other. Live webinars, if scheduled time, work well with it. Okay. Very good, very good. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Another poll question, please answer true or false. I have assessed the CCRC for my career development plan. Okay, I've got fingers crossed. I'm not trying to sway anyone. True, thank you. False. Okay, thank you for being honest. False, true, false, false. That's okay. That's okay. That's why we're here. Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, Molly. I appreciate your candor. Maybe we can tip the scales on that today. That's my hope. Thank you, Claire. Thank you, Eric. And I think that might be everyone. Okay, very good. Let's go to the next slide. So here we are back at the engine slide. We have just walked through each element of the NAVFAC workforce development system. This system is designed to take a programmatic and data-based approach to support employees' development as you begin to think about what you want your career to be. Think through what you will need to develop to get you there. Be intentional about your development and use the resources that are at your disposal through the Career Compass. Next slide. As promised, here are the links to access the tools we have talked about today. These are also in your workbook. Take a screenshot, write these down. You'll want to bookmark each one. Okay, next slide, please. Here's a list of the Bd17 contacts. Look for your area on the list. These people will play a key role helping you get started and can answer all your questions. The list can also be found in your workbook. We're going to come back to this list after the break and spend a little more time here. You can also find us on social media. Next slide, please. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Next slide. Okay, we made it. We made it through the presentation. Thank you. Please take note of this email. Any questions, please send it to NAVFAC Total Force Development. I'm sorry, NAVFAC HQ, Total Force Development at us.navy.mil. We are committed to supporting your development needs. We're going to take a short break now, and then together we're going to explore the CCRC, the Career Compass catalog. We're going to go on some scavenger hunts, very exciting, and we will look at the Bd17 contact list in a little more depth. So let's go ahead, and it's almost 10 to the hour. Let's come back at the top of the hour. So, Carl, you can just leave this slide up until we come back.
You got it.
Thank you. Okay, folks, we're going to take a couple more minutes before we come back at the top of the hour. And I promise the second half will be more exciting than the first.
Oh, hi there.
Oh.
Okay, great. Well, hey, if you guys just shoot me a little note saying you're back, and I'll know that people are attending, that they're back, and back from their break. Okay, great. All right, awesome. You guys stuck with me. I sure appreciate that. This will be the more less formal part of the session, and I think you may enjoy that more. And so what we're going to do first is, Sakari, can we back up one or two slides to that list of Bd17 contact names? There we go. All right, so let's just take a longer look at this slide and find the name of your person, your contact person, based on your command. This is really somebody that you should know. Does anyone here already know that person from their command in BD17? Yes, Molly does. Good. Jeffrey does. Jenna does. Jean, wow, Claire does. Familiar name from emails. Okay, good. Thank you, Suzanne. Kyle knows. Vanessa, she's back. Great, Vanessa. Molly says super nice guy. Awesome. Jamie knows. Okay, that's great. I'm so encouraged to hear that you maybe have already met this person, because this is really somebody you should get to know. Someone you can ask questions to, someone that's going to help you kind of steer in the right direction. So I'm very encouraged. If you don't, that's okay. That's okay. But maybe this is a good person that you should reach out to. All right. Okay, so let's go to the chat window, and let me just ask you this question. So far, what's a takeaway from today's session? Something that stuck out, maybe you didn't know, or you find interesting, or maybe you want to follow up on. What's a takeaway from today's session? Thank you, Molly. We have more tools available than I knew about. That's great. This is about awareness. Change can't happen until awareness takes place. The career compass. Awesome. Want to follow up and be more intentional with foundational competencies. Thank you, Jenna. Learned what the CCRC was. Thank you, Suzanne. I should take the ECA. Boy, Sakari, doesn't it just warm your heart when you see what Claire wrote?
Happy folks are engaged.
All right. Very good. Very good. So you can feel free to keep sending those in, and we're going to now move back to slide 16. Okay, there we go. All right. You know, we kind of flash this across the screen. It's in your workbook, but let's just take a closer look at what's on this slide because there's a lot. What I wanted to focus on are the color shaded areas. Okay, so foundational. These are the foundational competencies: accountability, initiative, resilience, integrity, interpersonal skills, communication for results, problem solving, continual learning, service motivation. Now, I want to see who's brave and who will tell me which one of these competencies that they could do without. Who's brave enough to tell me that? It's a great list, Ted, but that one number, I could really kind of do without. Anyone care to be that bold? Or say one that you don't think you're that good at. That's fair too. And there's crickets. Okay, I'll go first. The one that I think about the least or want to deal with the least is probably that first one, accountability. Ugh, accountability. And by the way, that's session number 2, all about accountability. Anyone else? Because I feel like my connection just dropped. You still see me, right?
You're still there.
Okay. Okay. Right. Oh, here we go. Resilience seems like it's very general. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Might be worth a look. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's move up to the supervisory section. Oh, here's another one. Service, motivation, and initiative can be consolidated. Okay. That's fair to say. Thank you, Eugene. All right, let's look at the supervisory area. These are the competencies in green: building diverse teams, developing others, conflict management, decisiveness, evidence-based decision-making. Now, which one of these would you say you really need to work on the most? I can say there's one for sure. I don't want to say it though. I want to see if someone else does. It has to be the least fun. Be the least fun on this list. Conflict management. There we go. Thank you, Christina. Claire. Okay. Decisiveness. Very good. Wow. I do have a question about this. As interns, should we have answered any of the questions in the supervisory and management categories when completing our ECA? I'm going to throw that question to Sakari.
That's so funny. I was getting ready to answer that question for you.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
the supervisory and management categories represent aspirational goals for your non-technical development. in some degree, certainly in the supervisor category, these competencies apply to some degree to every single person who works for NAVFAC. You want to be developing those competencies. Now, the expectations of you of how high you're going to have those competencies, maybe it's just a level 1 in awareness, but you're going to want to start developing those as you continue progressing your career, even if you don't explicitly want to be a supervisor or a manager. That applies to the supervisory ones. To the management, once again, you want to start developing those capabilities. Some of them, like technology proficiency or maybe program and project management, are going to apply less and less. So still everything I said there, you want to be developing all of these, and everybody wants to be working on those supervisory categories. Management, much more aspirational over time, and you're welcome to opt out if you feel one of those management categories absolutely does not apply to anything you're doing. Although I challenge somebody to make an argument that even something like financial management has absolutely no relationship to their job. I challenge you to prove that point to me completely. How's that, Leah? Is that helpful at all?
Right on. Great explanation, Sakari. Thank you for that. That was great.
And I guarantee you were not the only person who had that question, which is exactly why we have the ability to select NA for the management categories when you're completing the ECA.
Great. Okay, so let's now move to slides 17 and 18. Really, what I wanted to mention on slide 17 is the link. Okay, if you haven't taken the ECA, this is the link to do so. So make a note, and it is in your workbook as well. Okay, let's move to slide 18.
We're there, Ted. Are your numbers off slightly?
Maybe it is. 19. Yes, thank you, Sakari. Okay, so this is the sample report. Again, these are the same competencies that were on the continuum, and they're in the 3 levels: management, supervisory, and foundational, from bottom to top. Sakari, tell us about where this assessment came from.
Sure. So this report is something that is going to be automatically generated whenever you complete your ECA. So when you follow that link we just showed to complete the ECA, and you click through, the ECA takes, just 5 to 10 minutes to complete, maybe less. You've clicked through, you've selected who your demographics are, okay, what command and community am I in? And then you go through and you take your assessment, you take your 20 competencies, maybe like we just talked about, you opt out of some of those management competencies, you say financial doesn't apply to me, and then you click submit. As soon as you click submit, this report is going to be automatically generated for you. And it's going to be generated online and it's going to have a PDF, and you're going to be able to click save, download to save this file for your records. Because once you've left that page, we can't pull this back for you. So you've downloaded, you saved this report, and now you're looking at it, as Ted was saying.
Okay, great. Now, how are the top areas of growth? How does that work? How does that get into that red section at the bottom?
So the way that this works is that for every single career segment at NAVFAC, whether you're an entry-level employee, there's a set of desired proficiency levels. Let's think of those like we're doing archery, and these are your targets. There's some targets that senior leadership has said you as an entry-level employee, no matter what command and community you are, should have. So those targets are the desired proficiencies. It's those gray bars on our screen here in this report. So you assessed yourself somewhere. Let's look at accountability. You said my accountability is about, I read the definitions very carefully, and I think I'm fitting an intermediate, and that's great. And senior leadership, now this is not an entry-level report, but but so I can see that the desired proficiency levels are very high. I think we're looking at an expert level report here. So let's all pretend we're an expert level person for a second. That person self-assessed as a 3 intermediate. They read very carefully. Then they get to this report and they see, okay, well, my desired proficiency level where senior leadership would like me to be is they'd like on average folks like me to be a little bit, to be like in the 4 to 5 area. As we can see, the bar is kind of between 4 and 5. So that's somewhere that I would like to keep looking at. In fact, as we look at this report overall, we can see that this person probably is maybe pretty new to being management. They've got these really high desired proficiency levels from senior leadership, but all their current self-assessments are still somewhere in like the intermediate zone, which is fine. They've got some growth to do. For you as an entry-level employee or an intern, you're probably going to be seeing those gray bars below, like in the 1 to 2 to 3 zone, and you might even be self-assessing higher than where senior leadership wants you to be. That's great. So the report in the blue and green down at the blue and orange down at the bottom is going to tell you exactly that. It's going to figure out, okay, of all these competencies, what's the one that I'm most far away but haven't met it yet? And that's going to say your top area of growth. So for this person, this senior level person, they said project and program development. So let's look at that one. Oh yeah, we can totally see that. Look at their blue self-assessment. They self-assessed as a 1. Okay, that was their honest. That's where they thought they were. But senior leadership says, well, for an expert level person, you should be close to a 5. You should be between the 4 and 5 area. They've got a lot of growth to do there. On the blue area, your top area of strength, they said human capital management. Well, they self-assessed as a 3. And senior leadership says, we just need you to be between a 3 and a 4, barely close to 4. All right, you're pretty close there. You don't have so much to do. So again, this is an expert level report, but when you're looking at your automatically generated report, it's going to tell you that top area of strength where you can feel pretty comfortable and your top area of growth, which will be something you'll want to keep working toward as you want to keep advancing your career and your non-technical development here at NAVFAC.
Great answer, Sakari. Thank you. All right, let's move to slide 22. Slide 22. There we go. Okay, so for the IDP, Sakari, what is really the first step in launching this IDP? Does the information come in from their ECA automatically, or do you have to enter this, or how does it work?
So I'm a little bit less familiar with the technology of the IDP, which all that means is that I'm pretty much in the same place as all the learners on this call, rather than some, technology designer type of view, which is fine. What I do know is that the IDP does not get automatically filled out by anything. We'd love to move to and live in that world, and maybe NAVFAC will be there in the next couple of months or years. But right now, we're really counting on you, the employee, to take your employee competency assessment, that ECA, that report, and to use that along with your community management plans, which are going to give you some of the technical skills that your community would like you to know about. And take those 2 inputs and sort of put them into this IDP. There's sort of a self-responsibility piece here where okay, on that report I just looked at, remember that senior person, it said they really wanted them working on program and project management. Okay, so I'm going to fill out on this IDP that I want to take some courses in program and project management. Similarly, your community management plan is going to have some things it wants you to do. It's certainly going to include some of those DAU, Defense Acquisition University courses. So those are going to be inputs that you'll do as you're filling out the IDP. And as Ted mentioned quite a bit earlier, now this IDP, this is a more involved, in-depth product. This is a very, very critical part of you planning your next year or so at NAVFAC, though. This is how you get assigned time and maybe even funds to go do courses or do trainings and develop yourself. So you're going to take those inputs and use them to fill out this IDP in sort of a guided conversation with your supervisor.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sakari. Now, I want to ask Kyle, because Kyle mentioned earlier that he had done this. And Kyle, would you be brave enough to turn on your mic and tell the rest of us kind of what that experience was like. You took the ECA, you took that information, you talked to your supervisor about it, and then I think you went as far as to create an IDP. Any interest in sharing that with the group, kind of what the experience was like? And I was just looking to see if Kyle's still here. And if you're not Kyle, that's okay. We'll catch you next time. Anyone else care to share who maybe has done that? I know I'm asking a lot. No worries.
Hey, sir, this is Devin Gilpatrick. Can you hear me? Over.
Yes, I can, Devin. Thank you. Please take
I
it away.
would be, thank you, sir. I'd be more than, oh, sorry, Siri thought I was talking to her. I would be more than happy to share, but I do just want to let you know that I believe the Kyle you were referencing, he is in chat now, and I could reiterate his answer if you would like.
Oh, okay. Yes, please. I didn't notice that. Thank you, Devin.
No
Devin,
problem,
let's
sir.
start with you, and then we'll get to Kyle's answer that he was typing in just a second.
Yes, sir. That sounds good. When I first initiated this process, I do tend to have a bit of, I would say, high confidence in myself. So when I went through the self-assessment there, I thought, oh, well, you know, maybe I'm excellent at everything. I'd like to come from that perspective. And meeting with my supervisor, and also I think the reality of the scenario really revealed that, as deep down I knew was true, there are absolutely areas I need to improve on. And it was interesting because what I did was create an Excel sheet of the not only the material things I needed to hit as markers, such as DAU classes, which I believe was mentioned, but also actually on-site skills, such as working through pre-awards. I expressed the interests in the future that I would like to achieve, maybe working towards earning a warrant someday, maybe towards working on a pre-award solicitation, larger projects such as that. And this all compiled into an Excel sheet, which I sent to my direct supervisor in environmental compliance in NAVFAC Southwest. And that went up to higher levels for review and approval. And during my mid-year review and annual review, we do revisit this plan and see if I'm hitting those markers, or if I'm lagging behind anywhere, how I can increase the pace there. Over.
Wow, that's great. Thank you, Devin. Now, let me ask you this. How long have you been in your position?
Oh, well, sir, I started with NAVFAC in the Pathways program as I was finishing up my academic education in law school. So that was, I believe, in August of 2020. I was a Pathway support intern for management. I then transferred into the 1102 program, and I'll be reaching my first year in that program in May.
Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. Okay. If you're so inclined, can you share with the group what Kyle said?
Yes, sir. First off, just logistically, Kyle reports he does not have a microphone attached, and then he goes into briefing per your question. I'll just read verbatim here. What I did was first spoke with my manager to set a time up for me. We sat down, set up a short goal within 2 months, 6 months, then 1 year. We talked about the courses needed, time to spend at OJT, and so on. Most importantly, we assessed my plan online and then discussed my own weaknesses and agreed what was needed to grow in areas and what areas to seek further training. We signed up for specific classes and also set up a daily time to meet each week for 2 hours to directly work with me specifically. Over.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you, Devin, for reading that. And thank you, Kyle, for putting that in the chat. That's great. That's great. Anyone else have a similar experience or maybe different? Would be interested in sharing? Okay, great. All right. So I have another poll question. This one's going to be a little more tricky than the past. Okay, here's the question. The career compass relates to which part of the 70-20-10 model? The career compass relates to which part of the 70-20-10 model? This was mentioned earlier. So the career compass relates to which part of the 70-20-10 model? Jenna's answer is 10%. I don't want to say the answer yet. I want to let the answers come in. It's either 70, 20, 10, maybe it's more than one. Anyone else? The career compass. So we have 3 10% so far, 170. A 20. Okay, so we have all the options covered, 70, 20, or 10. The actual answer is it could be 70 or 20. It's not 10. It's not the formal. It looks formal, but it's not considered part of that formal training. But it does cross over in between 70% the experiential or 20% because of mentoring and coaching. Okay, very good. All right, so now comes the most exciting part of today. We're going to go on a few scavenger hunts here. And so Sakari's going to post into the chat the scavenger hunt. We're going to start with the first one. So you'll get the instructions on what you're supposed to go look for, but then you have to go find it. And it's going to be somewhere that we've talked about today. And Sakari, go ahead and copy that first scavenger hunt into the chat. It was on that Word file I sent earlier. Do we? Yes, you will need to have a website.
I'm going to retype this question. It's giving me some trouble.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, you're going to need to have a website up, and you probably can guess one of two websites it might be. What are the two types of mentoring? That's the question. What are the two types of mentoring? You can find this answer. Well, you can definitely find it in Career Compass. And then you have to kind of navigate from there. Just look around and you'll see the space, and then page down a little and you'll find the answer. What are the two types of mentoring? Oh, Jenna, very good. Anyone else have a different answer? Did anyone else find the same answer? Well, Jen is right. Informal and formal. Way to represent the Southwest. Informal and formal. And mentoring will be coming next year. So these are great opportunities coming your way. Things that you could be on the watch for. Okay, Sakari, let's go with scavenger hunt number 2. Looking on the CCRC, what is the competency listed? What is the third competency listed? So there's a list of competencies, and I want you to tell me what's the third one on the list. Thank you. If I had music to play, I would. Getting some interesting responses. Conflict management. Occupational series. And career field. Podcasts, webinars, whiteboard videos tailored to specific non-technical. Interesting. Resilience. Step 3, learning and development activities to pursue all year long. Communication for results. Well, so we all looked at different places, which is interesting. The list I was looking for, actually, Jeffrey answered the question that I was looking for, but it's not like there's a wrong answer here. But communication for results was the third competency listed on that employee competency page. But the good news is that this forced you to go out and look. And maybe you saw some things that you didn't see before, and that's the whole point. Very good, very good. Okay, Sakari, let's go with number 3. Name the video shown under accountability. Okay, so look for accountability and name the video shown under accountability. Avoidance to ownership. From avoidance to ownership. Very good. Very good. It's actually a great video. There's others just like it for every one of these competencies. And so the point is that we just want to get familiar looking around the CCRC and see where stuff is. Don't be afraid to click on, watch a video, listen to a podcast. That's the point. Very good. Very good. So several of us found that. That's great. That's great. Okay, Sakari, let's go with the scavenger hunt number 4 and the final one. Name the podcast shown under problem solving. The creative problem-solving process. Very good. Okay. All right, that's great. So hopefully you got a little more comfortable looking around the CCRC. You notice that there are relevant pieces of information there. Very good. Thank you, Ashley. What I'd like to do next is I'm going to ask Sakari to take us on a little tour of the CCC, the Career Compass Catalog.
All righty. So I'm going to finally stop sharing these slides. And I'm currently loading the catalog on my side again. And here we are. All right, can everyone see my screen? It says Career Compass up top.
I can see it.
So what we're looking at here is the Career Compass catalog. The catalog is an index of potential development opportunities available throughout NAVFAC. These might include courses, including courses that have been sort of sourced and located through NFI, including all the courses in the Defense Acquisition University sort of grouping, and many other courses. It also includes non-course sort of Career Compass learning activities that might include all those different media types we talked about before. Podcasts, webinars, whiteboard videos, and so on. It includes all these opportunities for non-technical and technical. And for the non-technical, it also includes a huge library of just activities, things you can do at your workforce, at your workplace to just continue developing any one of those competencies, such as accountability. So there's a lot of things that are available in the catalog. And I'm going to walk us pretty briefly through what all it can do, but I'm going to keep it big because we really want you guys to get in here and explore it for yourself. So I'm going to keep it big picture and we're just going to talk. So to get to the catalog, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to the Career Compass Resource Center, which everybody can access. This is not locked behind a CAC card. Although I do want to note that some of these materials are going to be migrating to the new NAVFAC portal. But for now, we have the Career Compass Resource Center. And once I'm in the Career Compass section, I'm just going to click on the Career Compass Catalog section. So again, that's pretty intuitive. You would want to click on that section if you wanted to access the catalog. That makes sense. And of course, once again, right up top, I can skip all these instructions and I can see here a big button that says select here for Career Compass Catalog. And I'll click that link. And if I need any additional instruction or information, there's plenty of information available on my screen here that you all can look at yourselves. So I've clicked this link and it's taken us up here to the exact screen that we were looking at. Oh, was it not sharing my screen when I was talking about the Career Compass Resource Center? That's interesting. So the Career Compass Resource Center is not locked behind a CAC. And you can click this link, but then to use the Career Compass catalog, you do need to have your CAC card put in, and that will access this. If you have any kind of technical issues once you're getting to this page, even though you have your CAC plugged in and it's active, that's the point where you're going to want to talk to your supervisor, talk to your local command Bd17, and they'll reach out to Bd5 who will make sure you have access to this resource. So now we're here on the Career Compass catalog. So what are the main things it can do? Well, there's 4 pages that you can use to search. You can search non-technical competencies, technical communities. You can search by the different catalogs of courses. And of course, like any good catalog, you can just search by keyword. So let's quickly take a look at each one of those in turn. I actually want to start with the third one, with the course catalog search. So we can see this is loaded, and this is slowly going to load into my screen here. And critically, we want to make sure that our searchable boxes are loading. So fun fact, there are actually some drop downs here that are used to navigate this resource, which are not loading on my screen. And I know there's a typical reason why that tends to happen. I cannot recall what it is at the moment. But in the interest of expediency and time, I'm just going to sort of talk about. So on my screen below where it says item number 4. So first of all, we have directions for each one of these pages up at the top of the screen. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what those directions are referring to is some boxes that are actually not showing on my screen right now that are below item number 4 and above this list of selected courses. I think that actually it's that I don't have the permission set up at this exact moment on this browser, and that's okay. But we would use, so these drop-down boxes that I'm going to refer to only briefly because we can't see them, we'd use those and we would select a catalog. So we could select DAU to search through. We could select learning and development opportunities, and that would be to look through all those different podcasts, webinars, videos, and so on. And it would restrict our search results to only that catalog. So that would be one way to just save you the time of navigating to, say, DAU's website and looking at their offerings, or to looking at the Career Compass Resource Center for each of those different things. So that's the course catalog search. Of course, the keyword search is something else that is pretty intuitive to anybody who's used a catalog before. Once again, my sort of input boxes, which would be before this bullet point number 3, are missing. But if they were showing, what I would simply do is I would go into the search field and I would type something like accounting system, and it might populate with this accounting system survey course that we can see loaded on my screen already in the search results. So we have a catalog search, we have a keyword search. And then if you're specifically wanting to improve one of those non-technical competencies that we've been talking about, we'd click on the non-technical competency page, and I would use those drop downs, which again are not showing on our screen here, and I'd just click the drop down and I'd say, I want to look at accountability. And it might populate with some of these courses here. We can see we've got some total force training courses, TFTs, that are populating here, such as accountability, the self-perspective. And then we would also be seeing that there would be some L&D courses populating, such as this L&D course, Developing Others to Lead a Strong Tomorrow. So that's searching a non-technical competency. Finally, if I wanted to look through one technical community, such as perhaps my community is in contracting, then I can use the drop down and go to just the contracting technical community, or maybe just the asset management community, and find only courses that have been listed as relevant to that community. So 4 capabilities: non-technical, technical, a catalog view, and a keyword search. And that's pretty much what you can do with the Career Compass catalog. And we update and maintain this catalog on about a quarterly basis. So the next quarterly refresh will be happening approximately the first week of May. So by the second week of May, you'll be seeing any new content that's there. Ted, I'm going to turn that back over to you to talk through.
Wow, thank you, Sakari. That was great. I learned lots of stuff there. That's awesome. Okay, so that's the CCC. Let's just take a quick tour of the CCRC on some pages that we haven't really talked about yet. And Sakari, I was hoping you would share your screen again and go to this.
I am working on it.
Okay, sorry.
So, like I said, I think a moment ago when I was talking about let's go over what I said about how to get to that Career Compass catalog. So we've come here, we're at the Career Compass Resource Center. When we open this up, there's going to be a bunch of tabs on the left of our screen that relate to each part of the Career Compass program. So if we wanted to go to the Career Compass catalog, naturally what we would do is we'd click on the page over the left that says Career Compass Catalog. And again, this website, the CCRC, is not locked behind a CAC. And I would just scroll down and I would select here to click Career Compass Catalog, and that would take me to that page we were at earlier, which is CAC locked. So Ted, what are some of the other areas of the Career Compass Resource Center that you'd like our participants to see?
Let's look at the introduction. Introduction and overview.
So when we first navigate to the CCRC, this is that link that we have. This is, again, what it's really going to be doing is it's just sort of putting you into an introductory page where you can learn a little bit about the Career Compass program, about workforce development, about how we're trying to develop you as an employee. There's going to be references to such things that we've talked about, like the 70-20-10 learning and development model, the community management framework, and so on. And from here, to get to all those other resources we were just looking at, we're going to, again, follow sort of the logical model here. We're just going to click Employee Resources. I really hope this takes me to exactly where I wanted to be. So now we can see this drop down on the side with all those pages we saw before, such as the Career Compass catalog. Ted, are there any others of these we'd like to look through?
So we've already explored a lot of the employee competency assessments and the competency development content. So those are the 20 non-technical terms that we talked about. We've talked about the ECA. So there they are, accountability and some of the scavenger hunt questions. You had to come here to find your answers. Please come back to these pages over and over again until you've memorized it. Let's go back to the other page, just one back, Sakari, and I just wanted to bring up the events calendar.
So the event calendar is going to be listed below the Employee Resources tab that we were looking at from home. So here we are.
Okay. So this is a great place to check at the beginning of each month for what is coming up that you might be interested in attending. And so you want to come back to this page again and again.
So for 2022, we can see some of the next activities that are happening is, for example, there's going to be a live webinar on April 26th, and that's going to be the NFI 301 Leadership in Today's Navy webinar, particularly definitely targeting sort of the West Coast and some of the PAC commands. All right,
Now,
Ted, what other resources would we like to explore here?
If we saw something there in March that we were interested in, and
so
I click
let's
on
say that I was looking through this page and I saw that on March 15th, there was this live webinar, 7 ways to build your influence. And I said, oh, gosh, well, I know that I need to work on influence and negotiating. That would have been great. Well, the good news is all of these events, all these things, these are going to get added to that Career Compass catalog, and you'd be able to search for them and find these opportunities that were once live webinars, and now they're going to be recorded webinars. Now, again, those are updated quarterly. So for most of this content, you can expect that all to go live on the Career Compass catalog quarterly, so the next quarterly refresh being May. However, that's just for the catalog. That's just for searching them. If you want to find them, they go live as recorded resources pretty quickly after, about maybe a month after they first happen. So I bet we can probably find this February webinar, Taking Charge of Your Learning and Development. Actually, I'm not going to pick that one because I'm not sure which competency this is. Addressing Team Conflict, that's probably going to be a conflict resolution live webinar. So now that's a recorded webinar. It's been more than a month since January 1st. So I'm going to gamble, and I'm betting we can find this under our employee resources. This was conflict management. So we're going to find the competency development content. And let's look for that conflict management and see what kind of resources are available here. And that was a webinar. So here we go. Here's managing team conflict. We got some other things here, seeking multiple points of views. Addressing team conflict in a virtual environment. So this is that January webinar that we were just talking about, and we can see some resources that we can open this through YouTube or so on. So again, the catalog is just, if you wanted to, the catalog would have just been pointing you right back to this page, telling you, okay, this is here. And while the catalog is updated quarterly, this CCRC, these resources tend to go live less than a month after their first go recorded, less than a month after their first live.
Okay. Wow, thank you, Sakari. That's exactly what I wanted, was to notice something on the calendar, especially in the past, that was of interest, and then be able to go find it. Now, you know, we'd all like to participate in live webinars probably more than we would have recorded, but the information is still there. It's not lost. You still can go back. And so I'd encourage you to do so. These are all here for your benefit, and they'll only benefit you if you take the time. So here's the thing. I think NAVFAC-wide, there's about 160 or so interns. And today we've had less than 40 attend. There's good news and bad news. The good news is, maybe if you're one of the 40 attending, you have a leg up and can dive in here and learn some things, some non-technical skills that can put you ahead. That's the good news. Now, the bad news, I suppose, is that there were only 40 or less. And we'd like to see larger numbers attend these calls. And if you've found this beneficial, I'd like you to put in the chat box, if you're courageous, and say, I did like today, and I'm going to encourage someone else to come with me next time. If anyone's brave enough to say that, please do so. If also, on the contrary, if you're brave enough to say, I didn't, and I'm not sure, that's okay too. This is an open dialogue, open forum. We want to consider all points of view. Okay, great. Found it helpful. Devin's going to encourage someone else to attend. That's great. Great information. Learned about the CCRC. I too will invite others to attend. That's awesome. Okay, that's great. And please continue to add your comments. They're all very valued. Now, as we said before, the next session will be on May 5th. Starts at the same time. There'll be a formal announcement very, very soon. This is a very fluid environment, and so we'll be announcing the actual Teams link and where the workbook can be found very, very soon, next week, on how to take part in that second session. And I would really hope to see all of you there. And like I said, I hope you bring a friend too, because this is just information that is just too good not to share. And it's honestly for your benefit. And so the sooner you can dive in and take your ECA, learn about maybe what are some of those gaps that you could work on. Just like, I love what Devin said, and he came strong to the mic with, of course I'm awesome. I'm fives all the way around. And then, life happens, right, Devin? And, you find out, oh, maybe I'm not a 5 just yet. And here's what I could do to become that 5.
And again, that's why we really, really love the most important part of this all is not you taking your ECA or you taking your IDP. It's that you've done that so that then you can have that conversation with your supervisor so you can level set. This is about as close as you can get to free direction for how to do better in your career at NAVFAC. Because you take this tool, you go into the super, they have some different and some similar opinions, and you square those circles, and that tells you where to go next. And honestly, how often in life do we get to be told where exactly we need to be headed, especially in the workplace? It's always valuable to get that information.
Very well said, Sakari. Thank you. One of the things I do is I'm a coach. And so I work with, various leaders at various levels. And I can tell you one thing that every leader says, especially those who are pushing the wrong side of 50. And what they tell me is that, oh man, I wished I learned that 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Boy, if I only knew that when I was in my 20s and 30s, what a difference that would have made. Well, folks, the good news is you might still be in your 20s and 30s and have the advantage to seeing and gaining this awareness now. And if you could do that and take one or two, just even the smallest behaviors, and try to work that into your daily routine, wow, how powerful will that be? And so that's my call to action for you, is to, you know, be as serious about this as you can be, and take note of the things we've shared. We've tried to lay out some foundational things on where to go, what to look for. But you know, another big part of that 70% is sharing with each other what you've learned. That's probably the best part of it all. And so I thank you so much for taking the time today. Roz does as well. I'm sure I can speak for Sakari in that regard as well. And so please join us again on May 5th, same time, same channel. Look for that announcement to come out shortly. And we're going to move forward. Now that you've developed yourself, we're going to talk about, what does accountability look like? And actually, the two are interchangeable. You can't develop yourself and move forward if you're not accountable. And if you're accountable, that's great. But if you forgot to develop yourself, well, you won't get as far as you could. And so as we see, these sessions are going to build on each other. And session 3 is about problem solving. Session 4 is about communicating for results. And by that time, you will be in fine shape, my friends. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. You are welcome, everyone. You are very welcome. It was our pleasure.
Pleasure having you.
Thank you, Sakari. You did a fine and smashing job.
Thank you, Ted.
Okay. The replay will be found on CCRC. Yep. So Tracy, you'll eventually see this on CCRC, the same place you saw the workbook. So I hope that helps.